So I'm over here enjoying my air conditioner. That's a really hot day at around 90 degrees. I figured I'd take the time to make this video of a user request, which was the video of the collapse of my last apartment in Miami in the American Dream. And that comment was if they can hear more about the part where I had the laced weed. Basically, I had cocaine, PCP, fentanyl, and ketamine. Well, while I enjoy my AC, I'll get to it. I'm going to keep this one short. So, it was spring break in Miami. I just finished bartending school, and I was happy and excited getting my certificate, passing it with a 95, being able to memorize more cocktails and learn new things, making the shot glass, the American Dream, and the B-52s, and all that stuff. So my family members gave me some money to go down to Florida and celebrate. I went and saw some family. Then I went to Miami for a few days. I went and visited the place I first bartended at, which didn't set me up to win, and was fired within 3 weeks, like I talked about in the video. So after that, I went and talked to people, and everything was going well, having a good time. I was just overall enjoying the beach and the weather. And there was a gift shop right down the street where I used to bartend. And this Cuban guy, with his eyes wide open with pupils dilated a little bit, he just comes out of nowhere and he just talks me into buying this weed. And I would say to him, "Is this legal here, sir?" "Yes, yes, see. And then I don't know what else he was saying. He was just talking really fast and jittery, which should have been a red flag. So there was this corner where they had pipes, grinder, weed, and pocket knives. Now, it was legal, but they only sold like the hemp edition, which is basically 50% weaker than the normal stuff. So before I knew it, I ended up paying $150 for everything, and there was a bit of a communication. They were like, "Okay." And the guy went in the back and shipped it in a box, as if they were shipping something totally illegal. So when I got to the car, I look at the weed, I opened it up a little bit and I sniffed it, and it didn't smell anything like weed. I remember it kind of smelled like what you can say is Pine Sol mixed with other powders. And when I got to the motel, I took a whiff of it, and when I snapped it, it literally was like a crouton. Psh, and you can see more purpley kind of like powder, and it had twice the smell of that Pine Sol, and it looked like it was glazed with something on the top of it. And so I didn't think much of it. It was spring break. I was desperate to get stoned. Desperate enough to be stupid, basically. So after I got to the door, something told me, like, don't do it. Don't do it. And as, like, I'm grinding it, I remember it was really hard to grind, and it was really fluffy and powdery. And it was really hard to get it in there. And as I'm smoking it, the smoke wasn't really a normal clear color. It was more of like a dark gray and really thick, like smoke of a car exhaust. And the afterdew of it would fade away, kind of like the smog in LA. And I didn't really feel the high. It just felt like everything was getting wider and wider and more spacey, and that I was in a tiny little bubble. And soon after, my brain started to change. Like, it distorted reality in a number of ways. Normally when I take walks in my neighborhood outside, it would just be a normal walk with like bunnies and foxes and cats running around, and everything was happy. But it just felt distorted and staticky, and there was no wildlife walking around, and it just seemed like the closest thing to a vibration of hell. And I think it was the ketamine that was causing that. I couldn't figure out what was up, but I couldn't stop smoking that whole thing. It was 7 grams, and I kept smoking and I kept smoking it, and I couldn't stop doing it. And I remember there was a couple nights I'm laying in bed, and I felt like there was a bunch of weight on my chest where I had to take literally a full breath just to get a slight breath, and that my heart felt like it was coming to a stop. And I was quite surprised I didn't die. And apparently one of my family members were telling me that during that spring break I was there was weed laced with fentanyl and ketamine left and right that week. And people were dying left and right. And the whole time I was down there on South Beach after smoking it, it just felt so distorted. It felt like everything was sick and that everything was twisted, that I'm seeing tongues and faces go spiral and stuff like that. So it was quite a crazy experience. After I smoked the whole thing, which is a few weeks or so, my brain was damaged for months. I can barely remember it, but I know I wasn't the same person that I used to be. I was kind of more arrogant, cocky, maybe like those people from the 1980s where they got their shades and their spiked hair and that they think they're better than everybody and that they push people around and talk down to them. It literally was like that with me. And my brain didn't function correctly either. It just seemed as if a chunk of my brain was missing for a long time, because when I went bartending at the catering I did 2 years ago, I was unable to figure out how to do everything at once. Like, it seemed like it took me longer and longer to learn the basics, which was like setting up the bar mats, setting up the liquors, the caps, going to the storage room and getting this stuff. Like, it was really hard to grasp and learn that. Pretty much the laced weed was making me stupid. There was this one chick who I knew years ago who was basically being immature, playing games with me and wasting my goddamn time, just like hundreds of others, and it's the same fucking thing. Oh my god, I want to, but I won't. Oh my god, I'm not gonna, but I hate my boyfriend, and then I wanna do this and that, but I keep dating the same loser and keeps fucking me over, so I'm gonna cry to you about it instead. Like, I'm in my 30s now, and all that shit is getting really old and annoying and a total waste of my fucking time. But I was stupid enough to keep falling for these stupid games and the string. That's how fucked up my brain was. And with that going on at the catering literally thought I was, like, mentally ill and stupid. There was literally 6 complaints about me. Yeah, no kidding. It was a very discriminative company anyways. Like, they literally took me in on my day off just to demote me and then said that I couldn't memorize cocktails. But I said all the cocktails I knew to their face and that they were highballs and all that stuff. But then they had no words after that. They never gave me my position back, never said why I was demoted. Probably because I'm Irish. That's what I feel like it is. I'm Irish and I live in Ohio. It's very discriminative here out of everywhere I've lived. In Florida, there was no discrimination. Everyone's treated equally like shit. After that, I couldn't, like, memorize the opening and the closing of the bar. It took a bit of time just to get the hang of things. With the cocktails, I knew. I was doing things like getting girls' number on the job, which was the reason I got demoted in the first place. Apparently I didn't like that, but again, it was discrimination. And so after a while, I was kind of like, well, what has happened to me? And when I went back to Maine to get my rehabilitation, which was the reason I went back there in 2022, a buddy I've known since high school would say the drugs changed your brain, that it's going to take some time to readapt. And it did. It took a lot of therapy, relearning, unlearning, getting my nutrition back, regaining my brain cells, basically. It took, oh God, probably 8 or 9 months to get my brain back to normal. It really did damage me. I'm just quite grateful that it didn't kill me. I didn't even know what was in it until I called one of my family members who's an expert on laced drugs and doing some research on Google. I was telling him my experiences such as reality being distorted, feeling like I can lift the car and push it, being arrogant, and having a bit of brain damage. He said, yep, there's some cocaine in there, maybe a slight bit of PCP, definitely some ketamine, and maybe some fentanyl. And needless to say, it really damaged my brain for a long time. I'm just grateful that it didn't kill me.